How's it going, everyone? Now, today with this video, I want to talk about something important, and that's in regards to Microsoft's press conference of this year's E3. Now, before I begin, I just want to say congratulations, Microsoft. I would like to believe that you did pretty well this year. It was better than last year's, that's for sure. You know, you're finally getting some exclusives, and you're getting some first party exclusives. Like, we're finally getting a Halo 6. It's looking good. No gameplay footage, but that's okay. Just slow down and take your time. Gears of War 5, that game's looking good. I can't wait. Forza Horizon 4, looking really good. Crackdown 3, another first-party game for Microsoft. Battletoads, which we're finally getting a new Battletoads. I heard it was trademarked a while back, so I'm glad that we're finally getting a new Battletoads. I just want to say thank you, Microsoft, and especially you, Phil Spencer, if you're watching this, if by chance you're ever watching this. I want to say thank you and the Xbox team for finally giving gamers a reason to buy an Xbox One, for giving us some more exclusives. And there's still a bit of a problem, or at least that this is my opinion, on the Xbox One and how I feel about it. I would like to believe that in some way the Xbox One is lacking some first-party games the same way that the Wii U lacked third-party games. Although maybe the Xbox One may have a little bit more first-party games than the Wii U's third-party games. But maybe I'm not thinking clearly, or it's just, I think maybe Microsoft should just look back on the past and realize that they still have some games that could be turned into franchises, like, Nightcaster, Jet Force Gemini, Blood Wake, Crimson Skies, Azuric, Brute Force. But now, excuse me, that's not really the purpose of this video, okay? There's a bigger purpose to this video than just some of these intellectual properties that Microsoft has published, some in the past, some recently. So maybe that'll be another topic for another video, okay? Well, Microsoft, I really think that you're lacking a really important franchise, and I'm sure a lot of gamers know what I'm talking about. There's a game that I hold very, very close to my heart. A game that is so dearly to me, a game that means a lot to me. And before I tell you what that game is, I'm going to give you a childhood story. It was in 1998. I was 5 years old at the time. And a guy named Brad, he was a friend of my uncle's. I can remember pretty well, but my memory's still kind of vague. But what I do remember is that he came over to my old house one day, back when I had lived in a different state. He was a friend of my uncle's, one of my mom's brothers. And he had a Nintendo 64. And if I remember correctly, he had games like Super Mario 64, Major League Baseball, GoldenEye, Rampage, and I think Mario Kart 64. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think I could probably see him having it back then. But there was one game he had that it was the first one I had played, the very first video game I ever touched in my life. And chances are, if I hadn't played this game, I probably wouldn't be the gamer that I am today. And that game is this. On June 28th of this year will mark 20 years of this franchise, of this particular game. I can remember when I first put it in his Nintendo 64 console, I didn't know how to play. You know, I grew up with a form of autism called Asperger's syndrome, so I was still unsure how to work the controller. I still was unsure how to play the game. But I think eventually he may have walked in the room, or maybe my uncle, Chris, or his friend Brad. Either one of them walked in the room and asked me if I was playing the Nintendo 64, or at least trying to. And he just saw I kept pressing the B button, making Banjo punch, all the way until he got to that picture of Gruntilda in the main hub of Gruntilda's tower of her lair. So eventually he started teaching me how to play the game. Or maybe it was my Uncle Chris. Eventually one day, there's a mall about a couple of minutes from where I live. And it used to have a store called Big Kmart, which is now unfortunately going out of business. But around 2000 or 2001, no, it was definitely in the year 2000, when they built a local Walmart around me, it started getting more business than Big Kmart. And Kmart at the store, up at the mall close to me, was shut down way long before Big Kmart started to go bankrupt. But I remember my Uncle Chris, my sister, our cousin, my mother, and her mother, we all drove one day up to Big Kmart. We purchased the original black Nintendo 64 console with a copy of Banjo-Kazooie. And I still have it to this day. And we used to play that game nonstop. Took me a while, but as I continued to reach adulthood, I eventually got to beat the game 100%. And I eventually found all the stop and swap items, which I found them when I was in middle school, I think. And even though we never got to have the full stop and swap experience until the Xbox port of Banjo-Kazooie. But anyways, 2 years after the release of the first game, we got a sequel. which was a pretty good sequel, by the way. It was, some of the move sets were considered an improvement over the first game. But I still hold the first game to be the best in the series. Or at least just, that's my opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. Not here to talk about which one's better, which one's worse. Not the point of this video. But then in 2001, Microsoft had acquired the company that developed the Banjo-Kazooie series, Rareware. And unfortunately, the last Banjo game you ever made, well, was this. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Nuts and Bolts was a fun game by any stress, but it's like in the beginning of the game, you mentioned that gamers didn't want to play platformers anymore. They just wanted to shoot things. Well, I think you're wrong on that, Microsoft. You know, in fact, even throughout the 7th gen, Nintendo was still successful enough with the Super Mario series, you know, Sony with Ratchet and Clank. Then in the 7th gen, we got like a fourth Sly Cooper from PlayStation from Sony. And, you know, despite of them proving you wrong, you still insisted that there was another future for gaming, which I wholeheartedly disagree with. And ever since Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, you haven't put Rare to good use. You took full control of the company, never gave them the freedom that they desired to make whatever game they desired. You try to get involved with it. And I fully believe that's what ruined them. But, you know, we do have this. I mean, it's the only good game we still have from them, even without the people. I know they've left. I know the makers of Donkey Kong Country, Banjo, and Ghoulies have left. They're at Playtonic Games now. But I really want you, especially you, Phil Spencer. I know you listen to your fans on Twitter. I know you talk to them time to time. But you need to think about something, okay? June 28th of this year will mark 20 years of the Banjo-Kazooie franchise. And so far, you have not announced anything. You haven't done anything for the Bear and Bird. Now, I understand that if you were to have Rare with a different director, or if you had another studio to develop Banjo-Kazooie, I kind of would be okay with that, you know. Even some games are still going well, even without their creators. Like, I've got high hopes for Mega Man 11, even though Keiji Inafune will not be making the game. I understand, now this is a survival horror game, but I think Resident Evil 7 has been doing well, even without Shinji Mikami. And I do have hopes for Devil May Cry 5, even without Hideki Kamiya. But anyways, I can understand that even if you were to announce a new Banjo-Kazooie game right now, it probably wouldn't come out until next year. But that's fine. I'm okay with that. I want you to slow down, take your time when developing these games. You know, in 2016, to celebrate Crash Bandicoot's 20th anniversary, they announced the Insane Trilogy, a remake of the first 3 games. Now, at first it was PlayStation 4 exclusive, but now it's a multi-plat. And the trilogy didn't come out until 2017. But that's okay. They needed some time to make the game. Microsoft, I really, really want you to think about something. Online multiplayer is not the future of gaming. There's more to gaming than just, you know, Halo, Gears of War, Forza Motorsports. I know those are some of your biggest franchises, but the platformer genre is still going strong to this day. This is probably a bigger success than what Super Mario 64 might have been back then. Now, I could be wrong, but it has still sold pretty well to inform the gaming community that, you know, gamers still care about platformers, 3D platformers. I don't know what people would have to say about this. I can definitely agree that, you know, maybe 3D Sonic games might not work out, but that's a different opinion. You know, there's still Sonic Mania, there's 2D platformers. And even though this came out in 2014, it was still popular enough to get a re-release. In this game, we've got Crash Bandicoot: The Insane Trilogy. It sold pretty well. Back in 2016, we had a remake of the original Ratchet and Clank. And like I mentioned about Mega Man 11, Capcom has realized that gamers still care about Mega Man. And, you know, since you hadn't given us a new Banjo-Kazooie, all we had was this. Now, personally, I haven't got to play it yet, but I'll eventually get to it at some point. Now, a lot of people are saying it's good. A lot of other people are saying it's okay. But rather if it's good or bad, it was still a successful Kickstarter. They got enough money to make the game and to prove to the gaming community that gamers still care about the Baron Bird, even though this is a chameleon in a bat. Now, technically, this game ain't a platformer, but Nintendo eventually came to realize that gamers still care about Star Fox. Might not have sold well in Japan, but well, with rumor has it there might be a new Star Fox racing game. That's cool. I'm all for that. But you know, these games, Microsoft, are still important to the community. They're still important to the gaming industry. They're still important to gamers like us. This game is something I hold very close to my heart. And like I said, there's a possible chance that had I not played this game, maybe I wouldn't be the gamer that I am today. This game right here is what made me a very passionate gamer who's enjoyed such a magnificent hobby. A hobby to give me such great imagination and ideas for creating content. I owe it all to this. Not only is this my favorite video game of all time, it's also my favorite franchise. But that's kind of hard to say, knowing where it's currently situated at. But you, Microsoft, you, Phil Spencer, have the power to change something. You have the ability to fix it. I know this is going to be hard for you to understand, but gamers have more power than the industry. The platformer genre is still going strong to this day. The success of games like Mario Odyssey, Crash the Insane Trilogy, debatably Yooka-Laylee, is still proof positive of that. You know, we got Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, a spiritual successor to Castlevania that's coming. And I'm excited for it. You know, not only did it prove that Castlevania was still a beloved franchise. It also proved that the Metroidvania was a beloved franchise or genre. And that's how we got Metroid Samus Returns. You know, some of these companies are starting to finally wake up and realize that gamers still care about these games. And now Activision is also in development of a Spyro the Dragon trilogy remake. I know the full title, I just can't pronounce it. But there is a remake of the first 3 Spyro games that are coming out. So, my question to you, Microsoft, is very simple. We are celebrating 20 years of the Bear and Bird, of this beloved franchise that I still hold close to my heart. And you've barely done anything for these. You've made them skin packs in Minecraft in the Xbox versions. You re-released them on Rare Replay, even though they're the 360 versions that are required because you forced backwards compatibility onto us that way. But other than that, you really haven't done anything for this franchise. You know, in all honesty, Microsoft, I really want you to think about something. And I know you can make a difference. I know it's just a game. I know it's just a video game franchise. I know there's more important things going on in this world to worry about, but I still think that you can make a difference. I want you to do something for this franchise. I want there to be a new game, a brand new Banjo-Kazooie game, even without Playtonic, the company that made Banjo and Yooka-Laylee. Maybe you can find someone who's a big fan of this franchise and can make a proper Banjo 3E. And while 3E is being developed, or if it ever starts development, maybe have another studio make a spin-off racing game. It was rumored a while back that we were going to get a racing game called Banjo-Kazooie. Pretty funny name, but hey, maybe you can have another studio develop that. And it could have a playable demo or a beta to the upcoming Banjo 3E. You know, give us an Xbox One controller with not just the Bear and Bird on it, or Gruntilda for that matter, but instead of having the Xbox logo on it, you could have the Rareware logo on it. You got a good opportunity here, Microsoft. But you're throwing it away. You got to rethink your options here. Think about all this. If you truly believe that nobody cares about Banjo and Kazooie, why not simply give the franchise to Playtonic? Give it to Nintendo for all I care. Give it to a company that you can trust that could help revive such a franchise. If you truly have nothing planned for it, give it to a company that will. You know, I'm trying to be honest with you. I'm trying to be real with you. You've listened to us this far. You've listened to us to the point where that you're finally going to give us some exclusives, that you're making some first-party games. You know, we got a new Halo coming, a new Gears coming, a new Ori and the Blind Forest. I almost forgot that. A new Crackdown 3, a new Forza, an expansion pack to Cuphead, and especially Battletoads. And that was a company that Rare made back in the day. If you can finally realize that gamers still care about Battletoads, why not a new Banjo-Kazooie? Especially for this year. You could do something with the Baron Bird. I'd say the same for games like Jet Force Gemini, Perfect Dark, and Blast Corps, but that's a different topic. Maybe for another video. But this video is strictly based on Banjo-Kazooie. So, it's really all I gotta say. So, Phil Spencer, or if anyone from the Xbox team is watching this video, I just want you all to think about something, okay? The platformer genre is still going strong. We are celebrating 20 years of an old franchise from the 90s. And we've barely done anything to make this franchise worth celebrating. So what's it going to be, Microsoft? Do you really want to make a difference? Can you really bring back the Baron Bird? For now, we'll let you determine that. Until then, this is Optimus N64 signing off. Stay gold.